Well, there we go. YouTube says I'm live. So, yes, my friends, we are back for another episode of Talk Power BI. And super excited about this one because this one is a special episode. This one is the Dashboard Makeover. So, if you haven't had a chance to check out what Dashboard Makeover is about, just head on to our website and you can find it under the free resources. The list is growing, by the way, which is pretty awesome. We added free inspiration there. That's our newest thing. Check it out. We're still building it out. But Dashboard Makeover, you can find it there or go to learnpowerbi.com/makeover. And the idea here is actually twofold. One is this simply that you get to present your dashboard and you kind of get to showcase your work in front of a worldwide audience and you get expert feedback. Well, hopefully. Right. I'll try my best, right? And hopefully others would contribute too, right? So, and that's the beauty of it. So that's pretty awesome. And of course, the first question that I get or concern that I get is, oh, but I have sensitive data. I work in healthcare. I work in Wall Street, whatever. But hey, we have you covered. So we have this whole video about how you can present it, how you can share that with sensitive information. And the simplest way to do it is send a screenshot and just blur out sensitive data. I have some other tips in the video too, so to get you over that. But folks, there's a bigger story there, and I think we talked about that last time we did it, or maybe the last Talk Power BI, where I feel like this is the second most important story you can tell, right? So we talk about storytelling. Anybody who's in kind of Power BI visualization, the word always comes up, storytelling. And we're often thinking about charts and telling the story of our data. But then there is another story, which is the story of your work. And I feel like if you do good work, if you do great work, but are not able to tell the story of your work, not able to present it, in this day and age, maybe I don't know, I'm inclined to say it doesn't matter. Well, you're definitely limiting yourself. You're limiting your growth, your future potential, and of course this goes beyond Power BI. So you gotta be able to tell the story of your work. So that's the second most important story. Of course, there's one more important story, which is the first most important, which is the story of yourself. We'll leave that for another day. But yeah, hello and welcome to Dashboard Makeover. So hey, if you're joining us live on YouTube, then just say hello. Let me know where you were watching us from, where you're joining us from. By the way, I'm Avi from Seattle. So good to have you on. Let's see, we already have some hellos here. So I see Gary is here. Dinesh says hello. And gosh, I can't read the name. It's in Arabic, but hello. I would assume you're joining from Middle East. We do have a few members joining from Middle East in our Learn Power BI community as well. And Pursuit says hi. And let me see who all we have on the phone today. We have, actually, let's go back in this mode. So we have Charles. Should be well familiar with Charles now. I mean, he has definitely shared his story on the channel with us, and that's great. And we have Carl Hooker and Javed as well. Javed, I don't think I've seen you before on Talk Power BI. Well, hello and welcome. You want to just, say hi, tell us a bit about yourself? Okay, well, if you want to share, that's okay. If you want to kind of hang around, that's okay too. Or maybe you're looking for the mute button. So, folks, Dashboard Makeover, do they have any announcements? Oh, we had one, which is, folks, so January 2020. We're super excited about this. So, so we've been running this program since the beginning of this year. It took a huge leap of faith. My coach uses this line and he says, leap and the net shall appear. And the first time you hear it, I'm like, no way, dude. I mean, that's just no way. What does that mean? Leap and the net shall appear. But, well, sometimes I can follow good advice even when I don't quite get it. And I'm glad I did. And so we have run 2 batches of this now. The first one was 3 months. The next one was 6 months. And as we were kind of wrapping that up, yesterday, pretty much all day, I was meeting one-on-one with these members. And man, for one, I want to thank everyone who talked to me yesterday about just being candid and just kind of opening up and sharing everything. And that was pretty awesome. But we were reflecting back on what was the one thing that made the biggest change for you in this year, and what's going to be the one thing that's going to be the going to be the biggest change. And what are we talking about? Biggest change for what, right? I mean, which direction? Well, that's of course, in our program we talked about that first. So you gotta have your kind of true north vision, and you don't have to have it in like 2020 clarity, right? You don't have to have a clear picture. Oh yeah, I want that. It's okay to be fuzzy. It's okay to refine it, but still, you should have some direction. And if you ask me, it should be about more than just money, right? It should be about the life you want to create, right? So anyway, I was asking them this question, and as part of that, on one of the calls, I was like, well, maybe I should try to answer this for myself. And for me, it was clear that the one thing that made the biggest difference in 2019 was the Pro Plus program. And the reason is that it acted like a mirror to me. And what it did was that here I am trying to, kind of coaching this group, and I believe in them, and they're a pretty amazing set of folks. You've met a lot of them on my channel, so you know what I'm talking about, right? And so I'm coaching them, but I realized that the things that I'm saying to them, I better follow that too. Or I started to notice inconsistencies where I was not stepping up, I was not being brave, and man, it changed things. So that's the way kind of this program was really instrumental for me. So we're going to lean into it. So, of course, a lot of you know Marianne. Pretty much anybody who sent me an email, most likely have gotten a response first from Marianne, and then she brings it up like, Avi, you should look at this one, and so Marianne and I have been discussing this quite often, and of course now with all the feedback from the students' approach, we're pretty excited about 2020. So we're going to lean more into it, and as part of that, I think there are this and again this kind of fear, unworthiness, all of this stuff, right? Imposter syndrome. We've talked about some of that stuff, right? Just this feeling of not being enough. I mean, you kind of solve it, but then you find a deeper level. You solve it and you find a deeper level. So I don't know. Is there an end? Who knows? Who knows? And so I'm looking forward to that journey. Another thing that I'll also share that I kind of discovered yesterday, or rediscovered maybe, was that that this fear, it came up quite a bit about that. Hey, I just don't feel confident, and all that stuff. And of course, kudos to those members who recognize that that's what's holding them back. Not that they don't know whatever. I mean, some weird trick in DAX, and they've never used calculate table. Who cares? But right, I mean, sometimes we fixate on those things, but often it's those bigger things, right? So kudos to those members who acknowledged it and shared it, of course, with me. That was brave. Was that, yeah? I mean, I don't feel like I'm there, and so forth. Now, of course, what I realized talking to them on the call, rediscovered maybe, is that actually that part doesn't matter. So it's okay. It's okay to feel all of that. I mean, and of course, I feel kind of self-doubt all the time. And of course, I see my coaches who are further ahead in, kind of both journeys than me, but they have these feelings too, and they talk about that. So I feel like that part isn't important. And of course, the challenge is that oftentimes we wait and we feel like, oh, when that feeling goes away, when I feel totally secure, right, then I'll do something. But that's never gonna happen. And I think that's what differentiates the people who kind of make it, right? Because they do it in spite of it. And actually, so this, I'm still working on it, is that some people don't do it in spite of the fear. They do it because of the fear. Okay, all right, folks. So hey, so yeah, that's coming in January 2020. And yeah, just go to learnpowerbi.com/pro plus. You can also find it on our training page. And yeah, so we're super excited about that. So with that, let's jump into the topic. Let me see who else says hi. Oh, lots of hellos. Prasoon is here from India, Bupesh, Canada. Hoopy Junkie? Did I read that right? Phoenix, Arizona. Robert Klein says hello from Calgary. Seth Scott from Streetboro, Ohio. Okay, hello from France. Bonjour. Is that a good day or good morning? Okay, that's my best effort there. I was talking to my son. I'm like, hey, I want to learn to say hello in like every language, or at least the languages that folks join in. Um, cool. Dinesh, question on Power BI. Folks, see if you can help out Dinesh. Greetings from Bulgaria. Alvin says hi. Cool. Prasoon is saying, loved Charles on death of a Power BI consultant. I think that's what we. Yeah, that was essentially. Oh, that was awesome. Um, uh, where can I get a copy of the program Pro Plus? Yeah. So, um, well, go to the site, join the waitlist, and we'll be sharing a lot more information in January. I think that's the best approach. Power BI doesn't work. Somebody's having trouble with that. Yes, yeah. So good question, Kay. Yeah, we're not quite, kind of there yet. So January we'll be sharing a lot more. What is the difference between Pro and Pro Plus? That's a good point. Frankly, working with our students has given us a lot of kind of clarity on our programs as well. This has evolved over time. Initially, when I started, there was just Learn Power BI. There was nothing else. And, so the premise behind the main course is that I want to focus on core concepts because I feel that's where people struggle with the most. And that's what's hardest to piece together through the jigsaw of Google and YouTube, right? I mean, I know I'm pretty active on YouTube, right? Well, we're on YouTube right now. But, yeah, core concepts, if you go around, hunt around, you get it piece by piece, and you don't have the pieces, it's hard. So, and I also feel that gives you the biggest value, right? The 20% core concepts give you 80% of the returns. That's the main course. And students have gotten amazing results with that. Now, of course, as students went on this journey, they said, Avi, I mean, this is great. This really helped me. But man, what about the rest of the journey? And I'm like, well, I'm still on that journey, right? I'm still learning that stuff, and I guess always will be. So then we have, for our students who have enrolled, we have pro level, and that one is really advanced Power BI. So plain and simple, that's it, right? So you got the core concept, you got that nailed, and again, they give you a lot of mileage. Often people discount this stuff. Sometimes people go through the course and say, hey, Avi, this was really simple. I'm like, cool. Well, the learning isn't doing, right? And start applying it. So they sometimes come back to me with like a really complicated question, and we would spend sometimes 30 minutes on it till we both would realize that, shoot, this is, kind of the basic modeling stuff that we talk about in the course. So yeah, it's a pro level, simple, advanced Power BI. That's it, right? So if you're gonna want to go advanced in that, and that's it. Pro Plus is very, very specific, right? So Pro Plus, Pro Plus is basically how do you become a successful Power BI consultant? And of course, one reason why I started this program was I saw this disconnect between what you would expect. So there's certainly this disconnect between, like, people think that if you go out there and start like following blogs and stuff about Power BI, it seems you get the impression that you got to be like a M ninja or a DAX ninja to succeed in this field. But folks, that's not my experience. That's not my observation. I've seen students who are really skilled, but frankly, they're not going anywhere, unfortunately. And I've seen students who are not that skilled, but doesn't matter. They're making a huge impact. They're helping people, helping businesses, making good money, right? So I saw that, and I'm like, shoot, we gotta hack that. So yeah, that's my kind of moonshot to that. That yeah, how do we kind of bottle success, and that's been a journey too. And as I was talking about earlier in the yesterday, we got so much feedback. One of the feedback was, which was probably the best piece of feedback, which was, Avi, this feedback loop should be continuous. So of course, we'll be working towards that. All right, cool. So a whole lot of other good mornings. Let's get past that. Let's see if anybody else kind of joined in. So what I'm going to say is we did have, so folks who submitted for the dashboard makeover, thank you. So if you're on the phone and you did submit something for the dashboard makeover, just speak up and let me know, because I might miss it. I mean, I'll go check my folder, and usually everything is there, thanks to the magic of Outlook rules. but yeah, I might sometimes miss it. So if you're on the phone and you send something, then let me know. All right, cool. So dashboard makeover, folks. Are we excited? I'm excited. Let's rock this stock Power BI. I came up with that this morning. Okay, what is it? Oh gosh, what is it? Dashboard makeover. Oops. Jeez, I lost it again. Hold on, guys. Found it. I found the folder, and I think we have some new entries. Ooh, that's interesting. So sometimes we get these blank entries. People don't send anything. I don't know what that is. So Azim and Wick just sent a blank. Oh, that was an auto response. Delete that. Sorry. Oh gosh, what is that? Okay. So we're gonna go with Melvin. So Melvin Lapp sends in, and he's at So he sends in and he says, I've created a financial dashboard integrating QuickBooks Desktop. Pretty awesome. And I would love your feedback. 10 different pages. Data is not sensitive. Thank you. Awesome. Great. So folks, and he has published it to web, so it's available to us here, and I'm pretty excited. So I've taken a quick look at it, but not really gotten into it. All right. So first impression, looks clean, right? I mean, frankly, looks beautiful, right? I mean, maybe we should have a gallery of like ugly dashboards too. If you have your ugly dashboards from years ago, when you didn't know better, maybe send those in, and we'll say. So this looks beautiful. This looks clean, right? So that's kind of the first impression. That's really good. I think it's really good. I like it. Cool. So let's kind of dive in. So what's the first thing that we pay attention to? I would say there's not a singular focus. If I were to pick, then let's see, is my marker working? Then the focus seems to be on these top two elements. Why? Because of the placement. So again, I mean, there is one which is kind of instinctively. So right, I mean, we've talked about where there's dashboard by design and dashboard by accident. And of course, I have built a lot of dashboards by accident where, and I was well intentioned. I wanted to build something good, but I just had never read up. I never really understood that there's a science behind that. So what ended up was I would just put something together, and if I felt it looked good, then it looked good, right? But of course, we look at it two different ways, and we're like, yeah, but it looks good, but do we understand the principles, right? So why is this the most important element? Because of the placement, right? So we've talked about the placement. Kind of the top corner is the most important. Generally, these two sections are more important. Why? Because people often, anybody who reads English at least, scans the page this way, right? So the placement and the size, So these three are smaller. These two are kind of bigger. So I would say these are more important. So you've heard me talk about that, where I talk about the power pattern, where I love putting the high-level numbers up top. And let me see if I can pull that up on the side. Current year income, it has all the graphs, but I'd love to know what was the year overall. And I'll pull it up and I'll show it to you in a second. Visualization. Yeah, there we go. Oh, sorry. Okay, that's coming up. So that would have been nice, and I think there's space that we can create that. So that's that. But otherwise, current year income statement by month, income, COGS, cost of goods sold, expense. Okay, income, COGS, expense. I think I need a finance lesson. So income, is that like the revenue coming in, and I'm gonna take the cost of goods sold, exclude that, right? Is that gonna be kind of negative? Um, if that's the case, then I don't know, right? I mean, this graph isn't really helping me. Like, and I can compare them one by one, but I'm not sure that's how people usually do. I mean, frankly, if this is kind of the total coming in, then maybe I would say, well, cost of goods sold is still kind of an expense, right? Uh, yeah, I mean, I do like the color scheme. I think so. Income is kind of the nice side, and that's kind of blue, which is themed, which is good. I think that's kind of working here, and the cogs are not shades of the same color. They could have been, but pretty close. So you see that. Yep, these are kind of related. But yeah, I feel like this is not how somebody would want to read it, right? I mean, so if you look at this, I mean, I can compare, like, if I want to see if I stack expenses on top of cogs, how does that compare with income? Obviously, I can't do that with this graph, right? So I think there's something kind of amiss there, and yeah, so or maybe I don't know. If we had Melvin on the phone, that would have been pretty awesome. It would have educated me a bit. And this could be a similar issue here, right? Um, this seems like a line chart, and man, I'm not sure about the fill colors because for me, I'm not really sure what this is. Is this a stacked area chart or is this a line chart? Um, I don't know. And of course, if it's one or the other, then I would read it very differently. Um, yeah, is it stacked or is it not? Yeah, so this one is, I'm not really sure how to read this one. Is it stacked or is it not? Okay, so mm, I, I, if I was doing it, I would probably take the coloring out. And of course, we should talk about coloring as well. We'll come back and talk about coloring, or maybe now is a good segue. So of course, we've talked about pixel economy, and again, guys, right? I mean, there's dashboard by accident, dashboard by design, and again, nothing wrong with it. And I've built a lot of dashboards like this, and where you just build something and you say, oh yeah, that looks good. Oh, that looks great. In fact, right? So that's okay. That's okay. And in fact, that's the thing. I mean, sometimes you might show to your manager and colleagues, and they might even say that, oh yeah, this is awesome, man. This looks awesome, right? And that's okay. Forward progress, mate. That's what counts. But once you know the design principles, then I mean, we're gonna practice that a little bit. So we've talked about pixel economy. Pixel economy is the idea is that imagine that if you had to spend $1,000 to light up each pixel, and it wasn't like a flat rate of 1,000. The brighter it was, the more you had to pay. The lighter it was, the less you had to pay. White space being free. Let's go with that, right? So what you're going to do is if you have to spend money to light up each pixel is that you're going to pour your money for data pixels. So you maximize, you make your data shine, you make your data the hero. Everything else, you're like, shoot, I don't want to spend money on that, right? So you're either going to eliminate or minimize any non-data pixel. So let's look at it from that perspective. And so the first, the background. So by the way, of course, folks who've watched the Dashboard Makeover before, almost all of it comes from Stephen Few and the classic book that he has, Information Dashboard Design. He has newer books too. I just haven't read them. I think Information Dashboard Design is a classic. You can't go wrong with that. So now what Stephen Few says is the white background is great. Slightly off-white also sometimes works better. So in this case, I think this background is okay. I mean, I think could be possibly be lighter. The only problem is with this whole it's doing this white border, and I think there are settings in Power BI to kind of do things differently, where you don't see the border. I haven't played with that yet, but yeah, so that the border is kind of slightly off, and that's okay. But then again, right? So if you look at it from the pixel economy, it seems to be a little bit excessive use of pixels. We're pouring in a lot of money doing background colors for this and so forth. And I'm not sure, right? So again, I mean, sometimes people make their dashboards look like cockpit dashboards, and of course there would be a lot of like gauges and all that stuff, and it looks sexy, but is it functional? And again, if you ask me, functional is sexy. I don't want something that looks great the first time, but is it emphasizing the data? Is it guiding my journey, right? So I would rather take that version of sexy, let's say, right? So yeah, so I think this is I mean, yeah, from the pixel economy standpoint, I would look to see if that can be eliminated or minimized, right? And yeah, I will say that, man, the use of colors is really good. He's used a subtle palette, which is awesome, right? So cool. So we're good there. And then of course we were talking about earlier about the placement of the elements and so forth. So yeah, I'm always kind of careful about using the space up top. I think this is a pretty important space, and I mean, this is like an afterthought. This is like an FYI, the report sync happened this time. I mean, this could easily have been in the bottom corner. I mean, once the users are trained to know, first time they notice it's in the bottom corner, they're gonna know it, and they can look at it if they need to. But yeah, again, this is not real data. This is not the important stuff. So I did get the power pattern up. So of course, the way I use this is kind of high level numbers up top, right? So I love kind of just put it smack dab in the middle, right? That's the most important position, and it just gives you that high level. So right now, I mean, I look at this, and if you say, was 2023 a good year or not, I have no freaking clue, right? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. Don't make them guess. Just give it to them, right? So say, yep, this is how the year was. And of course, you can, I mean, if you have like a budget or something, you can compare against that. If you don't have that, you can always compare against a prior year. If you don't have prior year, then you have to do things slightly differently. Usually, if you, let's say you don't have any year's worth, then you might do, I don't know, like a rolling average. So you would say, last 3 months we've been doing this, and the prior 3 months we were doing that, something like that. So you can always find some kind of comparison metric and give me a sense. I mean, is it good? Is it bad? Right? I mean, should I be worried? Should I be not? Right? Should I be happy? Should I be celebrating? Is it time to break out the champagne? Right? So yeah. So I think this element not that important. I would kind of try to squirt it away in some corner, maybe in this corner, maybe in that corner, and so forth. Slicers are okay. I mean, obviously sometimes I try to kind of place it here. But I think it's working. Slicers are okay. So again, generally, I mean, the top is more important, but yeah, this part is kind of the less important part. So that's okay. Cool. So let's look at the bottom half and 2-year comparison, 2-year income comparison by month. I'm not sure actually. Oh, so maybe the numbers here are not working. So I think maybe the data set doesn't have prior year. So, okay, got it. So it's saying I'm going to show you income for kind of 3 years, this year, that year, that year. Cool. I feel, my gut feel is that, and again, it seems like you're working with a sample data set, which I know is never fun because I have to often work with AdventureWorks, and it's like, oh gosh, why don't you, why does the data something like this? And yeah, so my gut feel is that this might be better as a line chart. So again, let's talk about that, right? What is the difference? When would you use a column or bar chart versus a line chart? And it actually is really simple, really, really simple. So a column or bar chart emphasizes the individual values, whereas the line chart emphasizes the trend. And let's change it over here, right? So let's have some fun with this. So we're gonna take this guy and change this into a column chart, and we're gonna go here. Nope, not in filters, in visualization, and we're gonna do it this way. Okay, all right. So can you see the trend in a column chart? You kind of can. Can you compare individual values in line chart? You kind of can, but again, the main intent of a column or bar chart is to focus on the individual values. All right, so the way this works, kind of visualization wise, I mean, that's the way kind of a brain kind of reads it, right? Is that it makes it easy for me to kind of focus on June and compare these two guys, right? And of course, they're wildly off. Let's look at something kind of simpler maybe. So February, I mean this one is easy, right? I mean so January, it's yeah. I mean I don't know, is it this year, current year? Current sales prior year. I think the order should be reversed. So prior year. So again, we scan in this direction, right? So the prior year should come before. Let me see if I can manage to do that. And of course, you might have to kind of fix the colors because I mean, stick to the colors. So, but the order is, so now this is prior year. This is current year. So prior year, next year. So that's the way we kind of read. We always go what is it, left to right, left to right, and I think it should be chronological. So prior year, this year, and now you can see that in January we almost doubled, something like that, right? So that's the emphasis of a column or bar chart. If you look at this one, notice it totally changes, right? I mean, visually it looks totally different. And again, it's not good or bad. It's like, what's your intent? What's your intent? What's the story you're trying to tell? Right? So in this case, the emphasis totally changes, right? I'm not kind of fixated comparing original values. Frankly, it's a little bit harder. I mean, it's just a little bit tricky. I mean, you can do it, right? But the emphasis on trend. And man, I wish we had like a lot of different elements here. AdventureWorks, it all kind of looks the same, But imagine if you slice and dice. I don't know. Let's try it. So let's try out some filters here just to see how this goes. So if we add country, and I'm really hoping that the data actually changes. So keep your eyes on this graph. Is it going to work? Spotlight. And oh shoot, it's not going to work, is it? Oh yeah, dang it! As soon as I click on something, so let's try this one. So what's the overall story? So we can see the trend, and what's the first thing that you see? You see kind of this June, and you can automatically see that the trend matches last year to this year, right? It goes up and then down, up and then down. This could be a big promotion we ran, and I was talking to somebody. I was talking to Charles yesterday about this, who's been focusing on marketing data, and he was talking about the seesaw effect, where you run a promotion and people buy a lot, but then they have, the inventory is piled up, so next month they don't buy. So who knows? I mean, this is AdventureWorks cycling. I don't know much about that business. It's all fake data anyway. But yeah, so right, I mean, you kind of see that trend. That's the first thing you see. And then, of course, you see kind of the growth. And you see kind of the year, we started well off, but, this year, man, we just kind of kept going and kept putting more and more distance from the next year. So clearly it was a good year for AdventureWorks. So that's a hot stock tip of the day, my friend. AdventureWorks is doing great. Buy the stock now, right? So that's the trend. And let's see if you can see something else kind of in Australia. Australia is kind of interesting. So we see kind of the dip, this zigzag last year, but not this year, right? So again, you can say, well, I mean, we did something big here, and then we have had relatively stable growth. But again, right? I mean, of course, you can kind of play around and see what kind of different story. But you can see that how the line chart, in a way, it totally changes the game. It totally changes the way the story is being told. And this one is still good. Again, it's not good or bad, right? It's like when you want to emphasize comparison of, kind of nearby values, then you'd use that. So if you go back, this one, if you're trying to have them see that, oh look, I mean, in this case the COGS was higher than income, this is brilliant. I mean, obviously it was shown line chart too, but not the same way. So my feel is that this would work better as a line chart. And what I would also say is that the placement is off, which, to be totally candid, I mean, you saw it was off in my graph as well. Yeah, I mean, I think Power BI isn't quite working the right way here. I would have preferred if the last thing that I added was the primary color by default was this color, right? But it isn't. So guys, watch out for that, right? So again, if you think about it, this graph doesn't have this data, but if that bar was there, if this bar was there, that bar would show up here. And for humans, it is backwards, because we don't read this way. We read this direction. So what we're expecting is that it's gonna be chronological in this direction. That this will be 2 years ago, 1 year ago, current year, right? Which this is the opposite. So even if you stick to the column charts, you gotta straighten that. You gotta make it chronological. But my gut feel is, and let's try this with real data, that this will look much better. This will convey a lot. It will really pop and tell a story if you change it to a line chart. Whew. All right, and that was just one page. So we're gonna maybe switch stacks. Maybe come back to this later. Let's see if there were any comments. Oh wait, lots of questions. So folks, yeah, I mean, I've seen that before. You guys kind of help each other out. So while I'm focused on the dashboard makeover, hopefully you guys are with me on that. But I know some folks have different questions on the chat board, and yeah, see if you can help them out. That'll be awesome. I'll try my best to kind of come back to that. But of course, this session focuses kind of dashboard makeover. Talk about that. Talk about visualization. All right, cool. So let's see if there was. Oh, there've been chats in my Zoom thing as well. And so Charles was saying expense bar height gets lost in the graph. Yeah. Yeah, so I wish we had Melvin to clear that up. Is it like net or gross income? Wow. Yeah, I think, and we haven't explored the rest of his graph yet, but Charles has some good thoughts here. That's Charles Sterling, by the way. We have two Charles on the call. Is think about like what percentage has COGS been of a revenue, let's say, and what percentage has expense been, and then track that over time. That would be interesting, right? I mean, maybe in some cases we're not interested in the certainly COGS, right? So COGS generally is expected to align with their income, with their revenue, right? So COGS is cost of goods sold, so it is whatever, manufacturing costs, shipping costs, things like that, right? So the more units I produce, the more, and my manufacturing costs will be higher, my shipping costs will be higher, and so forth. So, but if we measure COGS as a percentage of that revenue, if it's absolutely stable, it's like 10%. It's like, oh, brilliant, right? We know what our COGS are. Our COGS are 10%, right? Now, if it's going up, then it's like concern. It's like, we're not scaling well, right? So sometimes it's like, well, yeah, I mean, we could keep our costs down when we're making 10,000 units, but now we're making 100,000 units, and man, it's like shit is hitting the fan, right? Now things are breaking down and orders are defective, so we have to make them again. Something's going wrong, right? So at least deserves a look. Maybe nothing's wrong. Maybe there's some other story, but deserves a look. And of course, if the COGS are going down, then I would expect. So again, I mean, you go with a hypothesis. I mean, data is a discovery. It's a process. And I love this stuff. And I know you guys do, right? I mean, it's peeling an onion. And folks, you kind of enjoy the process. I know sometimes it kind of gets frustrating, but the more you remind yourself of how fun this is. So I know I started loving data, but I fell out of love. Has that happened to you? I don't know. I mean, it happens in personal relationships too, right? I mean, you can fall out of love, right? But the good news is you can fall back into love as well. So I fell out of love because working with data became a chore. It became this hassle, this mundane thing, this just driving the crank stuck in the data dungeon. And Power BI kind of changed that for me. I'm like, no, I can fall back in love again. So enjoy the process. Kind of remind yourself of that. So I think that's so COGS. If it is going down as a percentage, then my hypothesis will be that we're getting the scaling effect, right? Right. I mean, so that's what you would hope, you would expect, right? That it would be cheaper. Look at bigger companies. I mean, they operate at scale. If I wanted to make one Tesla, it'll be really, really expensive, right? I mean, boy, I don't know, $500,000. I don't know how much it will cost me, right? Imagine if you just had to make one Tesla. But of course, the cost is not that because they're making it at scale. So if it's going down, we would think that it's kind of at scale, but then I can put other numbers in there. It's like, hey, units produced or something like that. And of course, you can dive deeper from there. There could be a lot of other kind of avenues there. So that's a good tip from Charles Sterling. Yeah, so Carl has a good point, and he's saying, is it, so I think he's talking about, this income last year, 2 years ago, and he's saying, is it good to compare it at all? Maybe there should be kind of separate graphs. Now, I have a feeling that this one, my gut feel is that like a line graph with 3 lines would look good. Now, of course, sometimes people do line graphs and they're like 50 lines on there. Okay, I'm exaggerating. Sometimes there are, but frankly, even if you do a line chart and if there are 10 lines on there, you probably already know this. It gets really busy. It gets really hard to read, and it kind of gets crazy. But three, I think is brilliant. Three definitely works. I think you can easily do five. Um, so Stephen Few has this another idea, and I feel Carl is kind of hinting towards that, which is small multiples. And I'm not sure. I mean, I was introduced to this idea in Stephen Few. I'm not sure if it's his idea, but the idea was that you take kind of one graph and repeat it kind of multiple times, right? So you're showing just one number and department salary expenses, right? So salary expenses, and then you break it up and you say, well, engineering, operations, accounting. Now, I think there is a one huge error in this graph. Huge error. I think it's unforgivable. I really think it's unforgivable. Man, I can't believe Wikipedia did this to us. It's no, it's okay. It's Wikipedia. So I feel that the axis bloody has to match
They do.
because it's misleading, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, when I look at it, um, yeah. So, sorry. Hey, thanks for the words of support. Who is it? I didn't catch who was speaking.
Oh, that was Carl.
Oh yeah, Carlos. Yeah, so yeah, mate. Right? I mean,
Yeah, it's totally deceiving.
oh
It's
god,
whack.
yeah. If I would just glance at it, I'll say, oh man, HR, IT have both grown good, right? I was something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just out of whack. So guys, don't do this. Shoot, and let's find a better example. Is there?
But
Um,
that was my
this
idea
guy.
and thought with the comment that I made was
Yeah.
that if you set them up so that
Oh
they would
yeah.
be like sparkliney or whatever,
Yeah.
um, and for those three metrics, um,
Yeah.
if you wanted to make them visually comparable,
Yeah.
I think you would use bars instead of lines, even though you're
Yeah.
somewhat dealing with trend data. But the point of the trend isn't to necessarily look at the trend. So yeah, something like those back there when you had all
Yeah.
those stack bars.
Yeah.
So yeah, those. So like three of those, one for each of the three things. You put them like you got there on the top line, and again, definitely make the axes exactly the same because if you don't, then
Yeah.
like Stephen Few would say, you're lying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, this
um,
is this is a good example. I think the axis is the
and
same on 50 and 99. So small multiples are great. So yeah, kind of visually they let you kind of compare really quick different stuff. So you see kind of the individual breakdown in like you can focus on one year, but you can also kind of step back and glance and so again, I mean you can do the squint test, right? I mean you can kind of step back and say what jumps out. So for me, what jumped out initially was this one seems a little bit different, right? And again, now once I detected that, I'm like, oh, I'm spotting a little bit of that pattern across different graphs, but not all of them. Like this one doesn't have it, right? So yeah, small multiples can be really awesome in that regard. And one of the big advantages of small multiples is that actually that's not being leveraged in this graph, which is you can reduce the duplication. For example, once I point it out, you'll be like, oh yeah, obviously, right? There's no reason to repeat this axis. Again, assuming it's consistent, you can just put it at the top. So that's how typically small multiples are done. I mean, axis is not repeated; it's just right. I mean, at least you can eliminate the numbers, right? And of course, the labels as well. Population millions, you don't need to repeat it. The only thing that's different is a year, so you only repeat that, and that's it. So again, so if you talk about Stephen Few, he's talking about pixel economy. He's talking about, well, it needs to be information rich, right? Information dense. So he's looking at visuals which are compact, but that can convey a lot of information. Those are good visuals. We like them. And small multiples is one of those cases. What is the other one? Bullet chart. That's one of Stephen Few's favorite. I like that one too. And some of the ones that don't fall in that category are things like gauge charts. They take a heck of a lot of space to convey that information that they convey. Right? I mean, it can be conveyed in a more compact manner. Having said that, have I never used gauge charts? Well, I have. I mean, I know pie chart is a whole other thing. Cool. So, I have no idea how we started on this journey, but I think it was a good one. All right, cool. So so yeah, I was checking comments. So just you can. So Javed is saying, can we use matrix or table with a percentage change? Yes. So I love that. I mean, finance. Yeah, we use tables all the time, and I don't have a finance dashboard quick and handy, but maybe I'll bring one that we use. And yeah, tables are good. So by the way, folks, I think it's out there. I finally did a video which kind of compiled at least some of the key things that we discuss here. I think it's called How to Create a Beautiful Dashboard, something like that. But in there, I talk about how I think simple is good, and my stock is the simple elements, which is really just line chart, column and bar chart, and basically text elements, which is card, multi-row card, tables, matrices, right? All of those are, and use them judiciously, and so don't go too crazy in text, right? So, and I know sometimes folks who are changing from Excel to Power BI, it's a bit of a challenge. You end up with a lot of tables. Don't do that. But yeah, tables can certainly be very effective. Finance, it definitely works. I'll try to bring up an example as well. Cool. Do I have anything else? I forgot. All right, cool. So let's switch over to the next one, and maybe if we want to go deeper with Melvin's dashboard, then we can do that. So, folks, yeah, I mean, I love doing these, and I hope you get value out of this. And again, there's a bigger objective here, which is sure you kind of get showcased and so forth, and you get feedback, but I feel everybody should get in the habit of being able to tell your story, and this is a great, easy way to start. And and again, I said it at the beginning. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Not the money survey. The dashboard makeover. There we go. Is the first objection or hesitation that I hear is that, oh, but my data is sensitive. But we have a surefire way to get around that. So just go to this page and check that out. All right. All right. Let's see. We're gonna switch over. Okay, cool. So I think I already have that one up. So this one is sent by. This one is sent by Gustavo Arreola. Gustavo Arreola. Hello, my friend. And this is, he just described it as a daily report. That's all I have. But let's take a look. So again, kind of the first impression. Yeah, I mean, looks nice. The top looks a little bit color heavy, right? So it already right away kind of detracts me. And again, that stuff is not data, right? So and it's a really important space, and I feel like I think this is a little bit overwhelming. It's detracting me from focusing on the data. So I think that we can lighten the touch, again, kind of minimize it. The goal is to look at all the non-data pixels, and either you can eliminate it totally or minimize them, right? So I feel that one was a little bit too heavy there. But I mean, overall look is kind of clean. I feel there can be a few other tweaks. So again, generally this area is very important. Oh, I definitely love seeing kind of the high level numbers here. Shoot, I was supposed to keep a note of when we started this dashboard. Hold on, guys. By the way, we go back later on and we timestamp when we covered each dashboard. We're hoping if somebody wants to go back and watch the replay. Sometimes we send out an email as well. What is it? It's the 20th. Dashboard 2, and this is okay, dashboard 2, and this one is Gustavo daily report. Okay, so let's come back here. So man, that's just awesome. Putting high level number up, so you can see, I mean, how it really changed the dashboard. Like something simple like that. So we had where did the other dashboard go? Was it this one? Yep. Right. So here I'm like, okay, what? Right. And this one I'm like, boom. Oh, so the only thing that I would change is that, and I don't know. I mean, I've seen some finance dashboards like this where they show kind of the current year and the year prior and the year prior. But and again, hey, if my client insists on that, then sure, that's what I do. But I feel like we scan from this way to that way, right? And so how can you give them a hint, right? I mean, so I think this is logical anyway, but I think actually this one is really awesome. So let's kind of psychoanalyze this, shall we? So let's try this one. We'll do it in PowerPoint. Oh man, guys, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be super duper good. So this is our version 1, right? Now what I'm saying is that you should switch the order. How did that work? So 2017, I don't know why that one is bigger. You get the idea. And 2018, so stay with me on this one. Oh, 2018 is the same spot. Yeah, that's good. And 2019, how did that work? Oh, there we go, is over here. So that's what I'm saying. We should change it this way. But there's a problem. So right, so there's this chronological order thing. So again, right, I mean, we scan this way because that's the way we read. So, and we expect, frankly, chronological. Imagine, I mean, you know, if instead of January, February, March, you flipped it, people would kind of go nuts. I mean, right, and they'd say, "What are you doing?" Right? So chronologically, this makes sense. But since we scan this way, whatever is placed like on this side is more important than this side, which is more important than this side. Does that make sense? Right? So since we scan this way, the stuff that you place here is more important. But I mean, 2019 is definitely more important for us. But that's okay. We can work with that because placement is just one of the cues for importance. There are lots and lots of other cues. We can use those. Again, so you're giving people a guided tour of a dashboard without actually being there. That's what good visualization is. Right? So we can leave these hints, and you know, these hints need to be really subtle. So what are the things we can do? Is I think the best way is that we make this color slightly lighter shade, and you just need a slight hint. You know, that's it. You know, nothing more. A little bit goes a long way. And I don't know. Can we try it? I don't know how we would try it. Transparency. Oh, cool. Let's try this. Let's try. I mean, obviously that's not what you want to do, but I just shoot, it's kind of not working because I have. How do I do this? I know. Let's make it white. Sorry guys, I think it's gonna be a good experiment. So if we put this thing there, make it all white, no outline, thank you, and oh shoot, okay, move it up. I guess we could have done it in the Power BI file, but you know, you're getting the idea here, right? I mean, you can see that you can make it work, right? So if this one is, and of course you would kind of repeat the same thing for this guy, but for 2018. So you would have the 2018 image, and it'll be a little bit lighter, and then 2019 would be bold. So now it's chronological, which kind of makes sense. You know what? Let me just do it right. So I'll grab the 2018 one and put it there. And again, you're not gonna make it transparent. That's just me in PowerPoint. You're gonna just change the color of the text a little bit. So you can see now it's you know, kind of in chronological. So we tend to scan kind of this way, and it reads right. Now 2017, 18, 19, but that one is kind of slightly big. You can use other tricks. You can kind of make it bold and so forth and stuff like that. In this case, what I would also try to do is see if I can. So we talked about the bar at the top. It is really heavy, and what I would try to do is and you know, there's a lot of empty space here. I would try to move this whole section. This whole section kind of sideways. This way. And what that would also do is that it wouldn't leave 2019 off in the very corner, which is, even after this stuff, it probably feels a little bit odd. So it'll be a little bit kind of in the middle, And I think that would be perfect. I think that would be just perfect. And and you can move some of this weird stuff, notes and stuff off in the corner. They're not important. I mean, they're FYI kind of stuff. They're not data. So cool. So I think that's. But again, kind of coming back, I love kind of the high level numbers, and you can see how this works so much better than this, right? And again, I mean, this is good. This is really good, but you can take it to the next level by just not having a user's guess. Just put it right up top. So let's go in and read there. I think what I would like here as well is some kind of an indicator, a small icon, a small arrow going up and down or something like that. So again, so we've talked about earlier on the dashboard makeovers about the pre-attentive attributes, right? So some things we pick up almost before it hits our brain, right? So, and you want to dial in on those things as much as you can. Text is actually not one of those. Some of you have seen it. I'm not sure if I shared it on the YouTube video. I know I shared it in the class that I taught to learn Power BI, where there's a whole jumble of numbers, and then it say, hey, count the times the number 5 appears in this list. And you're like, ooh, 5, ooh, 5, ooh, 5. And then he shows the same thing, but all the 5s are like bold red. And now when he says count the number of 5s, it's like so easy, right? So some of that is pre-attentive attributes. So for numbers are not pre-attentive. I mean, we have to really scan and look at each shape. So think about the mental gymnastics that our brain is going through, right? So to understand how this compares, I look at 2017 and I read this number. This is days to invoice. Cool. So I say 12.4. Okay, my brain kind of registers that. And then I say 15.7. And then I do compare it. I'm like, okay, it went up. And 14.0, it went down. Right? But down, but not as down as 2017. That's a little bit work. So now this is a little tricky because we're showing 3 years. So I'm not sure how you're going to do the indicator. Are you going to do the indicator based on the prior year? Maybe. Yeah, so I think the 3 years is a little bit tricky. I haven't thought about that. I'll say try it. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's the right answer there. But certainly if it was 2 years, that one is slam dunk, right? That you should certainly put like a small up arrow, down arrow. And I think some of the custom visuals, you can do kind of an up arrow, and it'll also show a small percentage number there. So it'll say, it went down by 5%. By the way, another thing you got to be kind of watch out for is that whether sometimes down is good. So I just realized that, I'm sure you guys saw it before than me, is that for days to invoice, less is actually better, right? So maybe, is it straightforward, or is this tricky? I mean, I'm thinking this is straightforward. I think this should be kind of a down arrow, and it would be green. And so it'll say it went down, but it's good. It's green. Yeah, we could do it that way. Orders, kind of the same thing. Orders. So of course, in orders, going down is bad, I would say. So it'll be a down arrow with red. Invoiced. Orders invoiced. Yeah, that's cool. And of course, I would expect to see more numbers here. So cool, man. I mean, I think this is fun. This is fun already. We're getting into a lot of meaty things. Of course, slicers. I like to place the slicers on the opposite side. Why? Because placement is important, and we know that these two sections are the most important, and we also know why, because the eye scans that way, right? I mean, we scan in this way, which makes the top really important, which makes this section really important. And we also know about data, non-data, and the slicers are useful, but they're not data. Like once you make the selection, I want that gone, right? I'm not really focused on that. I mean, I need to be able to glance at it and check that, these are my selections. So I think this can be moved kind of over here. All right, cool. So let's see what else is here. So I would say, man, this one, actually finalized. It just, I didn't realize this opened on the weekly. I'm not sure which one Gustavo wanted us to see. Boy, we might look into this one because he's got a few different slices of things. But Finalized Weekly, I'm having fun with this so far. So let's keep going. Okay, so pie charts. Stephen Few doesn't like them. And hey, every rule that I say, it's absolutely okay to break that rule. In here, or when you're building Power BI models. And let me just take a peek at the relationship view. So this is a test for any of my students, and if it was a student, I would have, you know, you know, not been very happy. But yeah, I mean, if you're a student, you know about that, and you know what kind of organization. You know what? Let's not go there. So, but what I say is, so I like there's a default way to set up models, the data table, lookup tables, and the default relationship is one to many, one on the side of the lookup table, many on the side of the data table, and one directional. That's the default. Can you break that rule? Of course you can. I do that all the time. But you better be able to explain it. It better be a conscientious decision, right? Right? I mean, that you thought about it. Often, when I open a model with somebody and I'll say, why is this a dotted line? And shoulder shrug, right? And I'm like, why is this bidirectional? Shoulder shrug, right? Why is this many to many? Shoulder shrug. You get the idea, right? So, yeah, that's modeling by accident, right? I mean, you just threw it up there, and it worked. As long as it worked, you were happy. Fingers crossed. When it stopped working, you were really frustrated, and then you say, "Man, Power BI is so hard. Come on, guys." All right. So, yeah. So yeah, it's okay to break the rules as long as you know why you're doing it, right? It was a decision on your part. So pie chart, we know that visually they're not as effective. They're just not as effective, right? So, and this is just a donut chart, cousin of pie chart, probably worse, right? So yeah, so it's a little bit wasteful, and let's just change it. Let's just see how this looks as a bar chart. And right, I mean, sometimes we're like, oh, I want to. I mean, you want like visual variety. Let's just see how it looks. Ooh, man, I don't know. I like it. Yeah. All right. So yeah, again, okay to use pie chart, but as long as you're like, yep, this is why I'm using it. It was like my customer twisted my arm to do it, then well, that's the reason, right? So okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, pie chart. Just be aware that it's not very efficient. And of course, I mean, if pie chart was off in a corner somewhere, that would be okay. But this is like the first real visual, and I think it doesn't. Yeah, it's not working for me. I mean, right? I mean, first visual is really important, and to make that a pie chart, which is a inefficient mechanism, is probably not a good idea. You know, so so yeah, so I'll probably stay away from that. Cool. So aging, originator. So aging is how old the invoices are. Yeah, this is really cool. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. There's good data for sure, right? So I mean, this is the kind of stuff if you're dealing with the invoices. So this is what accounts receivable. That's what it seems like. Aging is like, hey, how old are the invoices? And uh, man, I don't know. Maybe this is the kind of business. So I was gonna say something judgmental about how 64% are 91 days and older, but I have no idea what kind of business this is. Maybe in this business it's typical. Now, what would be fun, what would be really fun, in fact, would be freaking mind blowing, is how the heck is this trending? Oh my God, wouldn't that be awesome, right? So it'll say right now, 64% of my invoices are 90 days and older. But I don't really know if that's good or bad. If I could trend that over time, if there was another graph which said, oh, historically, right, if you take this age bracket, 90 and older, oh, that's gone between 30% and 90%, something like that, or whatever. I mean, obviously, I don't know what the data is. Oh, it's inched up over time. Like, I mean, look, we started at 60, but now we're at 64, or we started at 50 and now we're 64, or whatever, right? I mean, that would be so cool. That would be like phenomenal, and and you could have that as like a separate graph somewhere, and you know, kind of how has that trended over time. That would be really cool. All right, let's hold that thought though. So aging gives us a good idea on like right now what the status of things, and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, a majority of our invoices are more than 90 years old. What's going on? And frankly, if it's that big a number, then I would go beyond 90 days. If 64% are beyond 90, I have no idea what's going on. It's like a black box. if really that big percentage is more than 90 days, give me 90 to 180. Give me 90 to 180 and then 180 and beyond. Because what I'm expecting is there's going to be some outliers, which are like, I don't know what happened. They just fell through the cracks and never got invoiced and probably never will or something like that, right? So, kind of put those aside. So I think your last bucket can't leave that much room, right? I mean, I think your buckets should at least capture 80% of the data. So 80-20 rule, right? So, if you're bucketing, your buckets should capture 80%, and then the 20% will be like, oh, that's 1,000 and whatever. I mean, 500 days and more, 300 days and more, and that should be like 20% or less. Cool. And now, of course, you don't want to create like 50 buckets either. So, be judicious. Gosh, I don't think I've ever thought through about how to do buckets in such detail. So that's some good stuff. Cool. I'm gonna write it down. How do you bucket? First ever conversation with myself, but hopefully it made sense. So how to bucket. And we talked about kind of number of buckets, and then buckets should capture about 80% of the data. The last bucket, example 180 days or more, should be less than 20%, right? Yeah, otherwise it's like, well, 90 and more, 90 days and more, but how much is that, right? So, so cool. Maybe a high level number I'm thinking is like just what's the average age, and again, trend of that, like average age of the invoice, and trend of that over time. So over time, how are we doing? The average age right now of the invoice is 59.6 days. But over time, that's been trending down, which means we're doing good. We're doing a good job. So you can read a lot into that. So that's what I love about Power BI, folks, that you can take a measure, and once you have a measure, it takes nothing to trend it over time, right? I mean, measures are the magic of Power BI, defined once, used everywhere. Once you have a measure, you can trend it. Once you have sales, you can say, oh, cool, now show me sales over time. Now, of course, you need the calendar table for that, and by now, I would assume that all of you have discovered not just any calendar table, but the ultimate calendar table on my channel, right? So, so YouTube Power BI Pro, and right up top is the good stuff, and Ultimate Calendar is right here, and make sure to grab that. So yeah, as long as you have that, you can trend anything you have. So aging originator, like where are the invoices originating from? Cool. So we have that. I think the labels seem a little bit overkill. I'm not sure. I mean, I can kind of read, imagine if the labels weren't there. I mean, I can see that this is kind of 80 plus. Do I really need the precise numbers? I feel like we don't, and it's just, making it look a little bit cluttered. So I would clean up the label. There's a red line here. Oh, this is really, really interesting. So the red line is there, but I don't know what the red line is. I would assume there's a target. So again, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's okay if it's not specified, if the default assumption is generally the right one, right? If it is the target, then it's probably good, right? So the red line is there, and actually, oh no, that's the average. Sorry. Okay, man, I think this needs well, I don't know. Maybe I totally messed it up, but I feel like maybe you can do a test. Like ask 5 people, like, what do you think the red line is? And if a few of them get it wrong, like I don't know, 3 out of 10, then you probably needs a legend, right? So yeah, I obviously got it wrong, but I'm a very small sample size of 1, so don't go by that. I would ask a few folks and say, hey, what do you think the red line is? And if all of them get it right, or 9 out of 10 get it right, then maybe it's okay. Otherwise, you need a legend, and I'm not sure. So I think this one has been added using this. What is this called? What is this called? This is called analytics portion. And is there a way in here to add it? Oh, data label. Does it work? No, sorry, wrong one. I was hoping it'll like add a legend automatically somehow. Maybe there's a setting, but if it's not, you can just create like your own, right? Using what is it? Insert text box, image, shape, whatever, right? And you say, oh, red line, average, right? So you just stick it up there, and you just need to do it once. You don't need to repeat it on every graph because it's the same for every graph, right? Red line is always average. So you can do it once, but I think you should add it there. So no labels like that. So good breakdown, and overall, I mean, this has good bones. So I'm enjoying this one because I think it has good data, good meaty data. It all starts there. Frankly, I mean, visualization, dashboard, makeover, we don't even touch that often, right? I mean, I think the first time I did it, I said that that's going to be out of scope, guys. I mean, what you're presenting, I'm not going to dive in there, but this one, I mean, I can see that this one has kind of good metrics, so that's good. That's the meat and bones of that. And then when we look at the at this one, which I butchered a little bit, but you've seen my power pattern where I love doing kind of show high level numbers and then show a little bit of breakdown, a little bit of trends, a little bit of detail. Bingo, right? And that's almost always the first dashboard that I show to any customer. And almost always, this usually has the only DAX I've written by this time is sum and maybe count rows, right? So yeah, and almost always it blows people away, right? Like, whoa, this is so cool, right? So yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. Power BI, what I love about Power BI is that even if you're in the first few steps, you can get immense value out of it, right? I mean, the first time you do relationships and kill all of your army of VLOOKUPs, it's like, whoa, right? The first time you load in 100 million rows, whoa, right? I mean, yeah, first time you write a simple measure and slice and dice the heck out of it. First time you use a calendar table, simple stuff, time intelligence, simple stuff, right? It's yeah, and yeah, so that's what I love about it. So originator, line type, services, materials, got it. Division, weekly average days to invoice. So I think I was harping about this one, and so that is brilliant, right? I mean, that one is kind of trending. Like average days to invoice. Average days to invoice. That's interesting. So the axis here is by week. So I'm a little unsure about this. And again, I mean, if the default assumption that people make is the right one, then it's fine. So what I would assume is that the week, so it says week number is 21, and the number of days to invoice is 1103. But I would assume that what it's counting is the invoices that came in on that week. That could be one answer. Or that wait. Oh, that was generated. Okay, got it. I think I was overcomplicating it. I think it makes sense. So weekly average days to invoice. So yeah, I don't know why I'm struggling with this, but so the week number, this would be for the invoices that were created that day. Number of days to invoice. Order invoice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think this is good. I think this is good. So cool. So we have that trend. Love that. And of course it's cross filter, I assume, so we can just go kind of look back and forth. So you see what's happening here when I'm cross filtering the graph. This weekly average invoice is kind of going a little bit bonkers, right? So it showed this, and then I checked this one, and it looked totally different, and then you click something else, and it looks totally different. What I try to do in this case is, let's see if it works, is I try to kind of hold that axis there because I think it's less disconcerting. So let's see if you can do that. So I'll select this graph, and then I'll say the week number. I keep show items with no data. Let's see how that looks. Cool. So now it's kind of continuous, but now see how the cross filtering works. If it works the way I think it would. So I click on one. Oh shoot! Ah, damn! Why didn't it work that way? I think this model is slightly off, and I'll tell you why. Because what I was expecting was that the axis, the lower axis, would hold static. It would show kind of 0 to 50 all the weeks, and then as you clicked on one or the other, different parts of it would light up, but you could see, right? So it's almost like the small multiples example, where the kind of the goalpost was kept shifting, right? So it's kind of hard to read this graph. I mean, this one is a trend over multiple days, but then the axis kind of keeps changing, and so let's look at this one again, where now it's just kind of 1, 2, yeah, something like that. So so I feel that there's something odd with this model. Now the week is an element of time. This should have been in a lookup table, which should have been independent of the originator, but that's not what I'm seeing. Without diving into the model, I would just call it out that there's something off here. And one reason could be that the data kind of has been flattened in the same table. So if you're right, I mean, if you take the lookup tables and flatten it down, then yeah, sometimes things don't work as expected. So yeah, it didn't work as expected, but hopefully you get the idea what I was trying to go to. So yeah, so weekly average days to invoice and monthly average days to invoice. I would swap the two. I would put the monthly first, and weekly after, because you usually go from high level to more detail, right? So again, I mean, if you look at the power pattern, I mean, we start with really high level numbers, and then we kind of break it down into more detail, right? So generally, you want to go from kind of high level to more detail. So I would say monthly, and then kind of weekly. Yeah, actually, that reminds me of a graph that Stephen T talks about, which is brilliant. I don't remember what the name of it is, but the way that kind of works, and I think the example he's showing is kind of a stock chart, but it's kind of a three-panel graph, and the first panel is, imagine you're looking at a stock symbol, is yearly, right? So the first one is yearly, and then it is for the current year, it is monthly, right? And then for the current month, it is daily. And frankly, when I'm explaining it, it sounds kind of weird, but man, I've seen the image and it works beautifully, right? So cool. Obviously, I've never tried to create that kind of graph in Power BI, oddly. you know, it should be possible. Yeah. All right. Cool. So I would say monthly, weekly. That's my gut feel. I'm not 100% certain about this, but yeah, monthly, weekly. Yeah. I'll go with that. All right, man. Good stuff. Let's see if any of the comments came in for this one. All right. Okay. Cool. And let's see what's happening on YouTube. Yeah, so Ryan was asking, is it for the entire current year? That's a good point. I mean, you can go either way. I don't know how this was built. I mean, it looks like 51 is 2019. Are we really in the last week? We're not. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, how come we have data seems to be in the future, which does happen in finance. Maybe these invoices are scheduled to go out, something like that. But yeah, that's a good question. Shaklin, you have a good question. Let's see if I can make sense of that. So let's go here. Oh, did that work? Oh, shoot. I don't know what happened there. I tried to paste his question. Copy. Oh, there we go. All right, so let's do 1022. And this one is Lane. I'll just use the last name, Ahmed. So it's saying if you have multiple years data and I want to see yearly comparison of 2-year with the percentage line on my chart, and should change dynamically if I change in the filter. So I think what you're saying is that something like, let's try it out. Oh, maybe I should leave that one in. Oh shoot, I hope I'm not saving this file. Hold on, guys. Oh, there we go. 11:4. Okay. I better reopen it. Hold on, guys. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so that's coming up. So hey, I did want to thank both Melvin and Gustavo for sending this in. I'm just gonna do a quick glance, see if anybody else kind of sent in this morning. I'll say sometimes we get these mystery emails where people send us the email. It has a subject, it has all the text, dashboard makeover, but it doesn't have anything else. So we're not sure what the intent is there. So folks, if you go on the makeover page, the submit your entry is actually really simple. So again, first of all, if you have sensitive data, then follow this. Just watch this one to see that what's the easiest way to share it. And when you submit an entry, it really just opens up an email like this. And we need this because we need to make sure that basically you understand all of this, right? But then you just attach something. So that's what Melvin and Gustavo have done. They either add a link to that or they attach it to this email and you send it away, right? But sometimes we get like just, people just open it and they click send and we don't understand what's going on there. So, I don't know. Maybe they were just testing it. We do get those emails, but there's nothing there, so we can't review. So yeah, dashboard makeover. So this is now a standard feature in our Talk Power BI. We will be doing it once every month. You can definitely check out the upcoming schedule on our page here. So upcoming live streams. I think that we have the next one scheduled already for January 31. And yeah, we will be doing this once every month. What we're also trying to do is that, so dashboard makeover, we want to do one every month. And then earlier, we would make every session kind of a Q&A session. If you've noticed, we have a little bit moved away from that. For one, because we've had some amazing speakers, and it just, I don't know, for some of these calls, it just didn't feel right to say, okay, guys, now let's, kind of switch over to questions. So we had Kerbal come and present, Ruth Pozuelo. She was pretty awesome. We had a great discussion on this one. So we have left it kind of that, hey, for that day, we're going to discuss that topic. But what we want to do is once every month, we do just like an open Q&A, ask me anything, and we also want to do it right, where we want to make sure that everybody, including our Learn Power BI students and our followers, at least the Talk Power BI Insiders Club, have a way to pre-submit questions and share the pre-submit questions beforehand. That way you can see kind of what's on our ballot, or what's on the docket. Whatever the right analogy is, and so you can see, oh cool, I mean, there's some things which are interesting to me. So that's kind of, we are working towards that. That will surely happen in the new year. January got filled up. January we had some exciting stuff planned. There's one here which is not shown here yet, but I was speaking to Grace, one of our Pro Plus members, and she'll be presenting in January, and the topic is going to be around essentially the idea of crossing the Excel to Power BI gap. And we feel that that's going to be interesting for you if you haven't crossed that gap yet, but it's also going to be interesting for you if you have crossed that gap, because most likely on a constant basis you deal with people who haven't yet crossed the gap. And of course, Grace is kind of intimately familiar with that. By the way, just to tell you a little bit more about Grace, she runs the company Light.lab, and her focus right now is training, right? So she runs these training classes, and she's based out of Singapore. So she's attracting students from Singapore and the nearby area. And so we were just chatting yesterday, what's happening in that area. So oddly enough, when she was talking about this, I'm like, wow, that was like, me 2 years ago, right? So people don't either are not, they don't know about Power BI, they haven't heard about Power BI, or even if they've heard about it, they haven't gone on that path at all, right? And so again, I mean, a lot of companies are still there, and that's okay. That's an exciting place to be. That means you have a lot of runway in front of you, right? There's a lot of room for improvement and learning. That's awesome. That's a good thing. But things have changed. I mean, the awareness has grown. So she's smack dab in the middle of that. So either if you haven't crossed that gap, if you have been on the Excel side, or if you are on the Power BI side but constantly deal with kind of people on the Excel side, and I think we've had earlier discussions on this channel where sometimes we've talked about how that can be frustrating. Grace has a lot of thoughts around that, and of course I don't want to give it all away, but she was kind of we were talking yesterday, and she was talking about some stuff that you normally wouldn't think about, but it can be critically important if you want to engage that audience, if you want to win over that audience, if you want to help them cross over from Excel to Power BI. So she was talking about kind of the way they use the tool, the how and the why, and not just that, but kind of the mindset and politics and so forth. So that's coming in January as well. And of course, I mentioned the Pro Plus program that she's a member of, and another shout out to that. So just go to learnpowerbi.com/Pro Plus, and that's our 6 Figures Power BI consultant program, and that's opening in January 2020. Cool. So I say let's come back to Ahmed's question. My file is finally open, and let's see if I got it right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change this to column chart. And by the way, if you've been on the calls before, I would constantly mix up column and bar chart, and I realized there was no reason to, because columns are like the columns in a building, like the pillars that support a building, and of course they're vertical. So now I've gotten it straight. I mean, columns are like columns in a building; they go up, and the bar is the other one. Cool. Okay, cool. I got it right. So I think what he's saying is that I want to compare sales this year, last year, but I also want to show percentage change on that. And I'm pretty hopeful. I mean, there's the combo chart. What is this called? The clustered combo chart. And I'm going to say percentage difference, percentage change. Let's try that. Ooh, line values. Is that good? Wow. Man, buy AdventureWorks stock. Look at that. The scale. So I'm not too happy with the color. I'm gonna change it. Here, percentage change. I don't know. Maybe I can make it thicker. I would say let's go with a neutral color for one, because red generally means bad, and that becomes problematic. So what neutral color can we choose? Maybe kind of a maybe we can change sales. So let's try this. Let's play with this a little bit. So again, sales, I think it should be sales prior year and then this year. So the order needs to be different. And what we're going to do is for the colors, we're going to change kind of sales. Sales will be kind of the default color, but the sales prior year can be a lighter shade of that, right? You can't go wrong with shades of the same color, classic way. I mean, and on a single graph, example, if you have line charts of stuff, you can do about 5 shades of the same color, and the eye can still differentiate it. If you go beyond that, then yeah, it probably wouldn't work that well. So now we can do this in like a neutral gray or something, or you can experiment with other colors. I think I'm just gonna make the line a little bit thicker. Line. I don't know how to do that. Legend x-axis, y-axis, shapes, plot area, width. Oh no, sure. That's shapes. I don't know. Oh yeah, there we go. Bingo. Hi, jackpot. So yeah, so cycling. Maybe this was something you're looking for. Oh, now it looks weird in a small scale. So kind of year over year, but that percentage change. Let's see if we can. And of course, well, if you have done the modeling right. So folks, on this session we talk about kind of the dashboard makeover. But of course, you know that inside my course, even inside my kind of the tutorial, right? So a great place to start. I always get that question like, hey, where do I start? I'm new to Power BI. You guys, start right here, the Power BI tutorial. Ignore the playlist thing. It's really a 60-minute video. That's a great start. So if you haven't kind of started your journey in Power BI, or if you have started but keep getting stuck, that's happening because you never mastered the core concepts, right? So you can go. I meet people who have been around Power BI for 3 years. They've been using Power BI for 3 years, but they say that Avi, I still feel uncomfortable. I still feel like I'm on thin ice. Da da da. Right? I mean, so yeah. If you're like, if it's that, then this tutorial is going to help you too. And of course, the next step would be, folks, join my course, which goes into a lot more detail, right? So that's kind of the journey. But so if you so in the tutorial and inside my course, I heavily focus on the model. So we start on query editor, clean up the data, model it, shape it. Query editor is your kitchen. That's the place really to create your model, right? I mean, right. So that's the way you kind of bring it alive. And then, of course, it gets loaded into here where you do the relationships, and then you do the DAX measures, which are magical, defined ones used everywhere. And that's the 20% that gives you the 80% of the results. If you do all of that right, it should be easy to create visuals. I mean, there's a little bit of art and science in visuals, but that's a whole different realm. Once you have something in mind, it's like, oh, I want to do this, it should be as simple as walking through a grocery store with your cart, and he's like, oh, I want some tomatoes, I want this, yep, right. So you should be, this is your shopping aisle, and he's like, yeah, I want this, I want that. It should be click, click, drag and drop, that's it. That's a good model. If it is not that, then you'll constantly be struggling. Then you'll be doing things piecemeal. You'll be like, oh, I want this, and then you'll work really hard to create that one thing. But then as soon as you show it to somebody and they say, oh, this is awesome, but can you do this? You're like, oh my gosh, I got to change everything. Folks, that's the old world. I used to live that life in Excel, in the old Excel, right? But that's not Power BI's world, right? So learn the concepts, and then it should be easy. So cycling, I think it should be as straightforward as this. All right, so I'm going to do one last scan of questions. I didn't see anything in our chat window with the students. Thanks for those who joined here. Quinn has a great question. I sometimes feel the need to change up the charts. For example, if I had too many bar charts on one visualization. I mean, I do agree that it shouldn't look all the same. I do try to break it up, so sometimes you can simply just choose between column and bar charts. So I keep messing up my default window, but you saw that there was at least one line chart here. So I think that's a valid point, Quinn, that if it's just a series of bar charts, then I don't know, it's yeah, there's something not right. So yeah, usually if I'm going for kind of breakdowns. When I say breakdown, I'm thinking column charts, bar charts, right? And then I say trends, right? So high level numbers, breakdown, trends, and then a little bit of detail. So I mean, I like the bar pattern, so it kind of keeps it balanced. But so do try to break it up, but if you're doing it to break it up, still see if you can use the best visual from the visualization perspective. For example, Stephen Few does approve of this tree map chart, and right, I mean, and frankly, tree map I'm not so familiar with. Like off the top of my head, like what are the scenarios when tree map is best? I mean, I understand that they can kind of show you a breakdown and all that stuff, but exactly in which cases they're good, they're preferred, in which cases they may not work, I'm not 100% sure. You can experiment. I do know that if there are like too many elements, then sometimes they don't work that well. So yeah, just try it out, right? So I'll say, uh, if you do need to change it up, see if you can stick to um, some of the effective visuals. So don't reach for a pie chart or a donut chart right away. See if you can use one of those other ones. I mentioned bullet chart is not built in; it is available as a custom visual. That is very effective. It's a very effective visual. I'll admit though that I have had a little bit of trouble with bullet charts in that, and it's just a small hiccup. But users, the first time they saw it, they just needed a little bit of training, just the first time. Not necessarily so. I mean, it depends. Sometimes it's kind of obvious, and if you label it well, it works really well. So you can kind of try those things as well, right? So see if you need to change things up, see if you can still use kind of effective visuals. But good point there. Mm, all right, cool. All right, someone else is commenting that, responded Quinn, that yeah, it depends on what you need to show. You can show top N, show top 10. Good thoughts there. What would be the DAX expression of the yearly comparison? We have year-over data. I want to see 2-year comparison. Oh, the DAX expression is really simple. Time intelligence is one of the things that I love about Power BI. So often when I'm working with a client, I'm looking for the low-hanging fruit. So I want to identify the things that are really hard or impossible in their current world, but would be really easy in Power BI. And there are so many examples of that. And I love starting with that, right? Because it just blows them away. Right? So I would take something that was really hard and impossible in the old world, and I solve it like that because I chose it carefully, right? I mean, I was zeroing in when I'm having discussions with them. Then I'm zeroing in on like they talk about like I don't know 100 different problems, and in my mind or in my notebook, I'm like doing oh that one because that one I know is going to be easy in Power BI, and then I solve it that way. Time intelligence is one of those super easy. Start off with a calendar table. I pointed you guys to the ultimate calendar table on my channel, so go find that right on my channel. So you need the calendar table to use any time intelligence function, and yeah, you can grab and learn everything about the ultimate calendar table right here, right there. So you have that, and then basically, so year-over-year comparison. You've seen me. I build measures in Lego blocks. That's what I teach in the course as well. So sales is just sales. That's the first step, right? So sales is just sum of sales amount. And I love my base measure is always simple. It's like sum or count rows, and then I build on that. So sales is sum of sales amount, and then sales prior year is going to reference sales. So now it's going to say that, oh, I want you to calculate sales, but so this is one of the time intelligence function, same period last year. So Sakleen, that's your measure. Let's see if I can paste it. I'm having some trouble with the. Oh, there we go. And that's it. Once you have prior year, I just do the Lego blocks thing. So now what is going to be the year-over-year change? Well, that one is just A minus B, right? So year-over-year change is just this Lego block. Oops, this Lego block minus this Lego block, right? And then you do the next one, year-over-year percentage change. Let's take a closer look. And that one is just, divide this one by that one, right? So frankly, the key is sales prior year, which is using time intelligence measure. Erica, I think Erica was trying to help him as well. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so lots of help for Sucklane. That's awesome. And yeah, so folks, yeah, I mean, so Sucklane, if you are doing that, then well, a warning to everybody that yeah, I'm not sure, Sucklane, what your background is, but in Excel, you build an army of formulas. Everything is really an independent formula. Every cell, I mean, every time you drag a formula down, you're essentially creating copies of that, and they're each slightly different in a way, right? And that's an old school approach, and it was what it was, right? But of course, that one is very fragile, and it's like a house of cards. I mean, it breaks very easily. The Power BI world is really different. The Power BI world, the way you want to live is you want to define an idea, a concept, like this thing defines sales, but then be able to slice and dice it anywhere you like, right? So again, we were talking about the other dashboard earlier, where we were saying once you have the age, right, and or age bucket, there should be nothing to trend it over time, or slice it by originator or line type or division or anything like that, right? It should be simple, right? So again, I mean, so sometimes people are like, the old approach with Excel, where if you wanted to go, oh, I want sales by 2018, you had some formula which calculated just for 2018. And then he said, oh, now I want, oh, so that was another part of Suckline's question. So he said, hey, I want this to be responsive for any filter. That should be the default behavior, right? So again, the old school was, if you asked a question and you just answered that. Power BI doesn't work that way. Power BI is a model. It can answer the question you're asking right now. It can answer the next question you're going to think of, and it can possibly, if it's a good model, answer the question you're going to be asking in a year from now. That's the sign of a good model, right? I mean, you go to a meeting like, yep, got it, right? I mean, so another question that Suckling was asking was that I wanted to be responsive to filters. Well, that's a default behavior. Again, right? I mean, if you swim downstream, if you swim where the Power BI current is going, everything's going to be simple. If you go upstream, you're going to be struggling all the time, right? And of course, that's what I hear from people is that, oh, Power BI is hard, all of that. And are there some little bit dark corners in Power BI? Maybe, but and 20%, the core concepts are going to give you 80% of the results, but you got to master that 20%. And I would love to invite you to my course for that, right? So join my course, and you can find the information on my site, just in training. So, but of course, I mean, step one would be to start with my tutorial. So that's right here on my YouTube channel. Start there. It'll give you kind of a taste of it, and it's actually pretty good. I mean, it does cover talk about the concepts. The course just goes way deeper into each of those. So measures, if you do it right. So the way this dance works, and it is a dance, right? So there's the measures part, and there's the model. The model is these tables, and this idea of kind of data and lookup tables, and this idea of that lookup tables kind of upstream. So lookup tables are the who, what, where, when, how. They're the ones used to slice and dice. But so if you set it up this way, and you write a measure, it could be sales, it could be sales prior year, it could be new customers, it could be anything. It could be simple, it could be complicated. And again, guys, now I've been using the AdventureWorks data for so long that people say, Avi, but this is sales. Is there anything else Power BI can do? And I mean, for customers, I have solved pretty much every domain. I mean, if it's HR, of course, sales, marketing, operations, finance, invoicing, data, everything, right? I mean, if you have data, Power BI is up for it. In fact, the structures don't look that different, right? The structure is going to be similar. There's going to be a data table, and there's going to be a bunch of lookup tables. It's going to be who, what, where, when, how. You start there, and then you define a measure. And if you've done so far, then the measure, the slicing and dicing, is automatic. You don't have to think about it. So when you said, oh, is this going to be responsive to filters? Again, that's default. I don't have to think about it. It's always going to be responsive. So if I drag in country and make it a slicer, or cross filter using this, it's yeah. I mean, you can see the graph over here. It is always responsive. That's the default behavior. So I don't have to think anything. I don't have to work make any extra effort to make it be responsive to any slicing and dicing. That is the default. Cool, mate. So let's end on that awesomeness of Power BI. And again, shout out to our Pro Plus program that's launching in January. So again, folks, at the beginning we talked about the journey and what we have built to kind of help you along that journey. This has evolved along with my students. It started off with the Learn Power BI program, and the premise there is just focus on those core concepts, which a lot of people miss. And I would say it's really hard, really excruciating to try to piece together these core concepts through the jigsaw of that Google and YouTube, right? So that's the main course. I'm like, hey, master the core concepts, and that does give you 80% of the results. If you do things right, if you're swimming downstream with Power BI, it makes it so much easier. And hey, this is not just a course, it's a community. We have this whole emphasis on learning by doing. We have lots of different ways you can get help to get over roadblocks. and the community is pretty phenomenal. We do a lot of fun stuff. We're hoping to bring some of that love to our YouTube community as well. So one thing we have been doing is we call the #win program, where we just ask our students to kind of share their wins, share any milestones, accomplishments, big and small, and we say that, hey, right, and we do prizes every month, and we have a grand prize, which is a ticket to the Power BI conference summit, whatever you want to call it. It's officially called the Business Application Summit, right? So that's that one. Cool. And oh gosh, what else? So yeah, that's kind of a main course. And then for the folks who join that course and want to go to the next level, so this is for students only. This is Advanced Power BI, and then Pro Plus started this year, has been the most fun I've had this year, and that one has a very specific focus. And this is for folks who want to walk on this path. And I think I've talked about in some of the other sessions earlier, and I think in one of the recent videos as well. Often when people think about this, they think about a few things. One is that they say, oh, but I can't quit my job. Well, I did it that way, but man, it was incredibly painful, and that's all the more reason that I don't want anybody else to do it that way. So pretty much everybody in the program, and of course that's my advice as well, that just, and don't see it as kind of black or white. Don't see it as like, oh, I can either do this or that. I feel like we're moving in a little bit of this freelancing kind of economy, and that's coming. Might as well kind of start opening yourself up to that, start testing the waters, and yeah, just try it out and see how it works, right? So, and you can gradually transition. If you like it, if it's working for you, yeah, well, you can keep moving that direction, right? So that's one thing. And of course, the other thing that I get is that, oh, I'm in consulting, and people always think about, I hear people, and some of my friends have gone through that, where you get an MBA, but then you go through the grind, right? It's kind of like the residency that doctors have to go through, right? I mean, you're studying, and then you have to go through the residency where you don't get any sleep. And consulting, I mean, people always think about, you kind of have to do the MBA, and then you go for a grind where you're working 80, 90 hours a week, you're traveling every time. That's not the only option. That's one thing out there. Frankly, the style that I lean towards, because for one, that's what I love and that's what I do, is an ability to work from anywhere in the world. I can be anywhere in the world, and my clients can be anywhere in the world. So, I mean, yeah, remote consulting and so forth. So, so that's almost every member in this program is kind of focused on it that way. And maybe the last thing that I get is this idea that, oh, I'm not kind of skilled enough. And of course, we've talked about that quite a bit too. And folks, this program was born because I realized that I wasn't serving my students completely, right? I was teaching them Power BI, but it became quickly apparent to me that Power BI did not necessarily equate to success. I mean, there were students who had phenomenal success. By the way, I mean, so we've been playing with this page a little bit. We hope to adding more to it here. But check out, we have some folks featured in our free inspiration. So we saw some folks just kind of taking off, but others weren't. And skill wasn't the determining factor. There was folks who were very skilled, but not really getting anywhere. And then there were folks who were not as skilled as a lot of these other folks, but having a great impact. So, so don't let that part kind of block you as well. There are lots of businesses out there who have never heard of Power BI, and so a lot of people get stuck on DAX. There's a lot of impact you can do just by some encounters, right? So yeah, and of course, am I saying that you should stop there? No. Hey, everybody should be on a journey, and it's fun, but don't equate it with other things. Don't equate it that, oh, when I master this, master in quotes, like, what is that point? I mean, have I mastered it? Everybody's on a journey. So when I feel good enough, then when I'm going to do it, and of course, it's #backwards, right? I mean, you're going to see, and I've seen it so many times now with this program, is that once they start engaging with the client, their learning just takes off. Right, it's crazy, right? I mean, it's stratospheric, and it's not even comparable with somebody who's just kind of in a study mode, right? So, and of course, I'm a huge believer in learning by doing. So Pro Plus, don't let that block you. So this idea that it's I have to quit my job, not true. You don't have to. This idea that it means 80 hours a week and travel, not true. And this idea that I have to be an expert, whatever that means, not true. I mean, empirically not true, right? I mean, I've seen this in experience with a lot of these students and so forth. So yeah, folks. So check it out, learnpowerbi.com/pro plus, and I'll catch you guys next time. Until then, power on.